Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Welcome back. How are you today? How's your life? As always, I hope you are feeling good. In this video, I will continue to talk about another theory of listening, especially about the reasons why listening is the starting point of learning a language. So, without any further ado, let's begin our discussion. My friends, all of you, listening is the natural precursor to speaking. What does it mean? The early stage of language development in a person's first language are dependent on listening. No wonder listening has a very important role in language development of the learners. The learners, we have to pay attention, who listen more will usually have a better speaking ability since they get so many input from their listening process. Through listening process, they can enrich their vocabularies, they can learn the intonations, the stress, and also they can learn how to pronounce the word correctly. In summary, what I'm trying to say is that listening is seen as a way to present models that learners immediately copied. We can speak when we listen first. That's the idea. We have to remember that learning a language especially is not just learning to talk, but rather that learning a language especially is building a map of meaning in mind. So we have to underline that. Therefore, from the point of view of listening theory, language learners in learning a language should begin with listening. Okay. In this view of language learning, listening is the way of learning the language. It gives the learner information from which to build up the knowledge necessary for using the language. When this knowledge is built up, the learner can begin to speak. This step of learning a language, is called as listening only period. It is defined as a time of observations and learning which provides the basis for other language skills. There are some benefits of learning language through listening. First, it's a cognitive benefits. What does it mean, everyone? It means that the learner is not overloaded by having to focus on two or more skills at the same time. Second benefit, it's speed of coverage. Listening, we have to know that it is one of receptive skills besides reading. And receptive knowledge grows faster than productive knowledge. It is possible to experience and learn much more of the language by just concentrating on listening. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, if the learners have to be able to say all the material in the lessons, in the other word, they have to focus more on productive skill, in this case is speaking, the progress would be very slow. The third benefit is it is easy to move very quickly to realistic communicative listening activities. This will have a strong effect on motivations. And the fourth, it is a psychological benefit. Why is it good for the psychological aspect of the learner? The answer is very simple. Learners will not feel shy or worried about their in the class begin with listening. Why? Yes, because they do not start with speaking. Believe it or not, having to speak a foreign language directly, especially when the learners know very little, can be a frightening experience. Nervous, shy. Therefore, listening activities can actually reduce the stress involved in language learning. So, my friend, what I have presented what I have presented previously actually shows that listening is very, very essential. However, listening activity alone is not sufficient for language learning. We have to underline this one. There is an important role for early spoken productions in a language course. In summary, what I'm trying to say is that a language process is suggested to not only give the student opportunity to listen, but also we have to let them produce the language, speak using all the inputs that they get from the listening process. So that's something that we have to pay attention before we teach a language, especially English as a foreign language. We have to teach in a balance with balanced materials between listening and also speaking. Okay, continue. Listening can be divided into two models. There are traditional and recent models. Let's discuss one of them in more detail. Listening was traditionally seen as a passive process by which the listener receives information sent by a speaker. Traditional model of listening is related with one-way listening. One-way, what is that? One-way listening typically associated with the transfer of information. So it is associated with the transfer of informations. In these types of listening, one-way listening, there is no interaction between listener and speaker. Meanwhile, my friends, recent models are related with two-way listening, typically associated with maintaining social relations. So this is the difference between one-way and two-way listening. In recent models, clearly there is an interaction between listeners and also speakers. Until this point, hopefully everything is clear. Let's continue. The next is about listening process. There are again two listening processes, namely bottom-up processes and top-down processes. Let's discuss it in more detail one by one, my friends. Okay, in bottom-up process, learners assemble the message piece by piece from the speech stream, going from the parts to the whole. So from the smallest into the biggest part of the listening. So that's what we mean about bottom-up process. Meanwhile, in top-down process, learners do the opposite. This process of listening involves the listener in going from the whole to the part, from the big to the small. So that's the difference. It means, this process starts from the learner's prior knowledge and their content and also rhetorical schemata. If you don't know what is schemata, schemata is like a background knowledge of the students about the topic that they are going to learn. The listener uses what they know of the context of communications to predict what the message will contain and uses part of the message to confirm, correct, or add to this. The key process here is inferencing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, which types of learners are you? Bottom up or top down? I myself think that top down is suitable for me. Well, that's my opinions. How about you? What's yours? Well, it's up to you. You know what's best for you yourself. Alright, to promote listening, as ELT teachers, we have several activities that we can do in our class. There are several activities. Let's discuss it one by one. First, oral Cloze test. I do believe Cloze test is common for you. Maybe some of you have used it in your class, but just don't know the name. In this activity, the listeners listen to a story, and occasionally the teacher pauses so that the learners can guess the next word in the story. So it's basically like guessing games. How is it, ladies and gentlemen? You have used it in your class, haven't you? I told you it's very, very common. Okay, second is picture ordering. From the name, we can actually know it. The learners will see a set of pictures that are in the wrong order. They listen to descriptions of each of the pictures or to a story involving the events in the pictures. Eventually, they put the pictures in the right order. So it's very clear. We often use this kind of activity in our class. I usually use this too. Okay, the third one is the what is it technique. The teacher describes something and then the learners have to decide what is being described. And then the fourth is same or different exercise. In this exercise, usually the learners work in pairs or maybe small groups consist of 3% or 4%. One member of the groups of the pair has a picture that they describe to their partner. And then the next is listen and choose exercises. Okay, in this activity, the learners will listen to a descriptions and choose the picture that is described from a set of similar but slightly different pictures. Lastly, padded questions. It gives a lot of listening practices with a minimal language response. For example, the teacher talk about where she lives and then what it is like living there. Then the teacher will ask the learners, where do you live? So each item consists of a simple question which is preceded by quite long talk on the same topic. All right. What we have to pay is I'm sorry, slip of my tongue. Okay, what we have to pay attention is that nowadays we have ICT, right? Internet Communications Technology. Informations Communication Technology. Well, sorry. We are provided by many technology that can ease our teaching process. So we can use any technology medias to support our listening activity. So feel free to improvise these activities that I have just presented. Just feel free, you are the main actor in your classroom, so you can decide whatever activities that are suitable for your students. The main goal is to assist our students to to be able to become a very proficient language user. So that's what we have to pay attention. Okay, everyone, as a teacher, always remember that our role in listening class is very, very crucial, especially to provide support. The teachers have to provide prior experience to the students before the listening activity is conducted. There are many things that we can do actually to activate learners' prior knowledge. We can give question and answer sessions, give them a vocabulary, or we can do games that are related with the topics, and many more, many activities that we can do. After that, the teacher have to provide guidance during listening. And the next is setting up cooperative learning arrangements. Remember, learning language is also about cooperative activity, namely when the strong students can assist the weak students and the weak ones can learn from the strong one. Classroom is a place for cooperation for study and a competition if it is for the test. That's what we have to always remember. Okay, lastly, the teacher have to provide the means by which the learners can achieve comprehension by themselves. Okay, that's what we have to do as a teacher to give support. Okay, as what I said before, listening activity alone is not sufficient for language learning. There is an important role for early spoken production in language course. Therefore, we have to understand the term called information transfer. What is it? What do you know about information transfer, everyone? This is an activity where learners reproduce the message they hear in a new form. For example, when they listen and respond by ordering a set of pictures, completing a map, drawing a picture, or completing a table. A key characteristic of such activities is that they involve a change in the form of the message, but the message remains the same actually. Listen and draw techniques can be classified as information transfer technique. I personally usually promote information transfer to my students in listening class by assigning them to listen and write what message they get from what they listen. You can follow it, or if you can design something better, that's fantastic. Finally, my friends, we come to the final topics, namely listening strategies. There are again two. There are two listening strategies, namely communication strategies. It is defined as the strategies to assist comprehension, for example, making predictions before listening, listening selectively, knowing how to interrupt politely, and etc. And then the second one is learning strategies. It is defined as strategies for noticing language forms in the input in their independent listening. For example, negotiating, seeking clarifications, listening for patterns, focused listening, and many more. Again, these two listening strategies are not better than the other one. What I'm trying to say is that learning strategies is not better than communication strategies or vice versa. Each of them has its weakness and strength. You can use both of them based on your goal, based on your purpose of listening. All right, everyone, my friend, as the conclusions for today's topic, I have to repeat what I have said before, that listening is the first thing the learners should experience in learning a language. The more they listen, the more they get the input. And the more they got the language input, the better language user they will be. So that's the key sentence actually. That's all what I can say and share in this video. See you. Assalamualaikum.